Thanks, David. Well, it's really great to be here, and it's such an exciting conversation, I have to say. In engineering, I don't get to have many of these conversations anymore. So it's a real treat to sort of speak the same language and not to have to worry about defining things and all that. So my task was to talk about actionable knowledge for decision making, and really thinking about how boundary organizations play that role. And we've heard a lot about it today already, how this is successfully happening. So part of this paper comes from, or part of this presentation comes from a paper that I wrote with Maria Carmen and Suraj Desai that's out now. So I welcome you to search for more information about that. But part of what drives our inquiry, Maria Carmen and other colleagues, is this gap, searching for why we can produce all of this terrific information and still struggle to understand why it isn't actionable or usable. And so it's really this understanding of pushing knowledge collaboratively from production to use. So part of what we do or we think about in trying to tackle this problem is what Adam talked about earlier about the science policy realm and how thinking about how we produce information in the first place, or why we do our research. Is it to answer fundamental questions about nature in humans and how clouds interact in global climate models, or are we really trying to answer a problem? And you know, on the one case, this basic research isn't really looking at trying to work with users and engage them in the work, but really just adding to the body of knowledge. On the other hand, when we think about answering problems, that's when we run into this gap again. And it's only through engaging users that we find where we consistently cross that gap through co-production and social learning, again, that we've talked about quite a bit already this afternoon, and produce more actionable knowledge. And it's these boundary organizations that we keep hearing about that are doing this great work, and whether it's in the context of knowledge systems or chains of boundaries or networks or integrated assessments, boundary organizations work by translating science, by identifying what users' needs for information are and then matching those needs, matching that information with those needs. We see GLISAs, not only the GLISA that we've heard so much about and the partner organizations today, but GLISAs in the other parts of the US that are very successful in contextualizing and translating information to meet user needs because of that attention to the context. They place that climate change information in the geographic, in the political, in the economic context and regions that really helps users integrate that into their decision making. Beyond just working with individual users, the GLISAs as boundary organizations are helpful because they can think beyond just working with individual users and try to amplify to working with groups of users, to working with other boundary organizations and working beyond to get that climate information to become actionable among a larger group of users. Moreover, we see GLISAs being successful because they themselves adopt this learning atmosphere. They themselves are these learning organizations. And again, I sort of think back to the presentation by Adam at the very beginning in his last slide about the principles by which these GLISAs and by which the NOAA apparatus is trying to function in being more collaborative and being adaptive and learning. And I think those are the keys that GLISAs have embodied that has been so helpful in helping them and being so successful in producing actionable knowledge. But one of the challenges that I think are raised in sort of relying on the GLISAs or on boundary organizations in general as sort of the epitome of how we produce actionable knowledge is that the intense interaction and customization is really slow. So if we shift our focus just, from trying to improve the RISAs and trying to understand what boundary organizations do and really think about the use context, and that's when we begin to run into this challenge with how long can users wait? How complicated is this production process need to be for them to start running into their own challenges about actually bringing and putting that information into practice? So the fact that sometimes the production for knowledge, moving it from production to use is so slow, that can be a challenge that that should be overcome. Another is this idea of oftentimes we're engaging with the highest capacity users and the first adopters, and how do we get sort of to that next set of users out there who are maybe have less capacity, who might not be as apt to engage or might not be able to spend the time. So how do we streamline the process to get them involved more and to make it easier for them to take and make use of this information that's out there? And beyond user motivations and beyond sort of the RISA and boundary organizations themselves, we can think about policy instruments that may drive usability. And so there's other ways to think about how we might bridge that gap or produce and get more information into the hands of users by perhaps driving policy in that direction. And I think some of the boundary organizations that the RISA or GLISA is working with have already mentioned that being a piece of sort of driving some of their interactions, bringing users to the table. So that's all I had. Thanks very much.